Hello, this is Mark AJ6CU, and today we're going to look at the Calibration Wizard component of the microbit settings editor. This is I think, a pretty useful tool in that it allows you to online interactively set your calibration and kind of get it right if you can, with the tools we got. Now, the rule is don't do this just because you don't have anything else to do. You do it when your radio is deaf, you can't hear anything, it's hissing, it's obviously out of whack, or you're hearing 10 megahertz WWV about 5,000 kilohertz away. So don't do it unless you have to. So let's talk to the radio first. Let's get the radio information in. So we're going to read it. Takes usually a second or two to wake up the radio and process the data. And if we look at the system information here, we have a pre-release of version 2. It's running on a V3 microbit hardware board. It was built for that. It's a Teensy 4.0 build, not 4.1, 4.0. My boards for 4.0 and 4.1. Nexion, it's talking over the hardware link, not the teeny serial link that was used originally. It has an external I2C because it doesn't have that, the Teensy doesn't have that hardware, that big, huge, 1024 hardware EEPROM, and the encoder is sitting on the analog lines like it's traditional. The Raspberry Pi, if we were looking at the Raspberry Pi Pico version, this would be digital. So now we're going to go to calibration. And so one of the things before we hit that button here is to recognize that the calibration only works on version 2 or greater. And the reason being is simply that to make it interactive, I had to make source changes and both be able to set and read various values. So I put those in 2. I did not put them in 1, 2. And so that's why you have to run 2. So if you have a regular old Nano, I have a beta version of 2, i.e. use at your own risk. And I'll put the links down below. And you can take one of those hex files down, load it up using Xloader, and you're off and ready to go. And then you come back here to the Calibration Wizard and use that. Now, if you're a careful person and don't want to use it on your good Nano, then what you would do is you would first, on your new Nano, you would install either 1.2 or the 2.0 beta. And then you would, so you have to have, CEC running on both processors. Then you come in and you would read in your old one up here. Then you would link down here and you would write out to the new one. So make sure you're writing reading to the right one. So don't get them reversed or you're going to be very unhappy. And that way you would have a new Nano that you can play with without worrying about your old one. So let's go and start the Calibration Wizard. This is a kind of a traditional warning. Don't do this unless you have to. Again, it's as it comes from the factory is probably just fine. Besides telling you can go back and forward with the next buttons, the most important information on this screen is really this cancel button. I don't know how many times I've had a problem and and I couldn't back myself out of it. So I just canceled it. And what happened is that this put everything back the way it was, reset the radio, and I was off running. In fact, we'll see that at the end of the video here. So now let's go to next. We've acquired the existing calibration data. You can see that the master is negative. It's pretty unusual. Most of the time they tend to be positive, but it is possible that it's Crystal and SIS 5361. They could go off either way. And so this one has to be negative. There's an initial BFO here for USB and one for CW. Now, I want you to click this little guy here. Why? Because that now copies this information to the clipboard. Go paste it someplace and save it. It's always good to have a hard copy backup. So we're going to go click next. And now here is a preparation. You should have watched, Mr. Farm's video. It was a wonderful video. You should have watched it multiple times. You can get the URL there by just clicking here. Now copy it to the clipboard. And then you can paste it in your browser and you're off and running. Watch it multiple times before hitting that next button. And when you're ready, before you hit the next button, you got to hit this. You have to get to this tuning aid. And now, some people use other tools instead of the one that's online by HF Signals. I like the HF Signals. It's kind of pretty, for me, it's pretty dead simple how to use. But there's other options here that you may choose. Let me click it. Let me bring it, paste it, and bring it up, and we'll bring it here, and we'll bring it over here. Okay, so we're now, I just basically pasted that right here, and now you're seeing me talk. And when I don't say anything, it goes down to 0. So let's go on to the next screen. So I need to turn on the sound here so you can hear what's going on. Let me do that. Okay. When I'm quiet, you can kind of see that the spectrum is down here a little bit far to the left. It's not kind of centered in between these two red lines. So to move it higher, you click the right. To move it slower, you click the left. And then there's a speed. So I often go in like 25 or so. And then I click it and get close, and then I'll reduce it. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go 50 because I want to show you, how far you can move this. I'm going to move it all the way outside the bandpass, and it should be quiet at that point on the screen, and then I'll move it back to where it's supposed to be. So watch this. And now let's move it back. And slow it down to get a little closer. That's pretty good. This stuff down here at the bottom, you see, this is some noise in the system. So now let's go on to the next step. Before we go far, let me turn the noise down. You don't need to hear the radio at this point for a little bit. I'll get this off to the side. Hopefully I'll bring it back when it's important. Next step is to actually set the master calibration, which is your frequency. The classic way of doing it is you click against, you 0 beat against a known frequency. A lot of people use WWV. If there's a strong AM radio station in your area, you can use that. I've heard people actually using Russian beacons. So lots of different areas you can 0 beat against. And if you use something special, which is not WWV, click here and you enter the frequency here. So for demonstration purposes, my VFO is set at 14.214.000. I'm going to set it the beacon or the frequency I 0 beat against just 1 hertz up, and let's see what happens. 14215.123. So I'm a kilohertz up, and now when I hit the calculate button, we'll see what's happened. First of all, it read the VFO from our radio, and then it used that in calculating the new master calibration number. And it went from -17 to 44. So that's pretty cool. So let's go next. I need to bring our old HF Signals guy back here because we're looking at the BFO again. I need to turn it back up so you can actually hear what the sound in the background. Now, hopefully some rad tour has 20 meters hasn't jumped in here. And you can see that the spectrum has moved up here. And this is one of the things that Mr. Farm mentioned, that you got to, after you do a frequency calibration, you got to go back and adjust the BFO. So I need to move this down. So let's move it down. Again, there's just noise down here on the bottom. So pretty close. Now we're looking at the CW BFO calculation that's on the receive end. When we went to this step, the software automatically switched from upper sideband to CWL. That's what it's using here for this CW BFO. And let me be quiet and we'll see what the pedestal is. It's actually not bad. It's pretty much in the center. Again, like we did in the other one, I can move it up and move it down. Just, why not? Move it up. Now we'll move it down. Okay, So we're almost done. Last step, final review. Things in bold changed. And at this point, what you would do, if you're, let me get rid of this noise, that noise, and it was just us. If you were happy with what you did, what you would do is you would save and exit, and it would save the values and then reboot the machine. I'm going to hit cancel because I kind of was happy with the way the radio was calibrated before. Don't want to go through it again. But before I do this, let me turn the noise back up so you can actually hear the radio change from what it was, what I've set it to the new settings. So what you hear now is the new settings, and once I hit cancel, it'll reset it back to what it was originally. So that's it. We've gone past the whole situation. I'm going to turn it down again. And I've done the calibration. You can see how you do this a few times. You can do this really in about 4 or 5 minutes each. The only thing that I would recommend, there's one other trick that I use, and I do a lot of the calibration. I got to put it in front of my face. Because I own I own a lot of uBITX, and I actually have 2 or 3 times the number of Raduino boards because I'm always, testing a new processor or on a new combination of V3 or V5, and so I'm always moving things around. So this guy here is a high accuracy oscillator, and I'll put the link down the eBay down below. And what I really like about this is that it has about 60 hertz. 0 beat area. So this is a 10 megahertz. I hook it up to my antenna. You could put a 3 or 6 dB pad in there. You probably should. And then you tune it to 10 megahertz. And as you kind of adjust your BFO until you 0 beat it, you'll find that at one point it's off. And as you turn it up, you get it stays off, and then suddenly you hear it again. And that width is going to be about 60 hertz. So once you kind of figure out the low and high end, you put it in the middle. And I find that whenever I do that, and I finish all this calibration work, and I reset and I turn the radio back on, it's actually right dead center on WWV 10 megahertz. And it's clear. It's really clear. So if you do a lot, then I recommend this. If you're only going to do one, you only have one microbit, you're probably only going to calibrate it once in your life. You don't need it. Of course, you find a station to 0 beat against, and I'm sure you'll do fine. It'll be more than accurate for that. So I hope you found this video useful. I have some other ones in the back of my mind that we need to do. For example, definitely we need to do one on how you set your CW ADC ranges here. But that's going to require a special board, which I have produced. That allows you to adjust and set this up for when you have a paddle versus a straight key. And there's also another board I have that I want to show it at some point here, which is the extended key version of this, which allows you to have buttons, a box of buttons, and have them do different things. And we'll set one of those up too, but not today. So hope you enjoyed it, and leave any comments below that you have questions, or I'm certainly on the uBITX 20 group a lot, and you can definitely connect with me there. Thank you.